Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Yorgos Lanthimos. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You, by all accounts, are a lovely, very nice, normal guy. So what I want to ask you...
You seem surprised.
Yes. Well, somehow we wind up with films with humans being turned into animals,
Great.
ducks racing. It's all great, but I just wonder, where does that quirkiness, I don't know if that's the right word, where does that come from?
I wouldn't know. It's just natural.
Yeah.
I guess it's always trying to find, the different perspectives to expose parts of human behavior and human nature that we might not be too aware of. And just observe people in extreme situations and make our own understand in our own terms. It's just an exploration.
Yeah. Actors love working with you, and I think you, from what I've heard, really enjoy that part of the directing process, working with actors. You first worked with Olivia Colman on The Lobster and also with Rachel Weisz, but I want to ask you for a moment about Olivia Colman, because I believe it was pretty soon after that film in which she played a smaller part that you identified her as the person you wanted to be your Queen Anne. What was it, now I think the whole world is catching on to how special she is. What was it that made you feel she was the person for the job?
Again, it's really hard to articulate, but just having seen her work, the first time I saw her was in this film called Tyrannosaur.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever saw her, and I was completely blown away. I hadn't seen such a performance, for years. And then I discovered her work on TV and comedy, and realized that the amazing range that she had. And then I met her and worked with her on The Lobster, and I saw also what a wonderful person she was, and very special, very sensitive as a human being, but as an actor as well. Extremely funny, and I just knew that I wanted someone that can portray Anne in a very multi-layered fashion, and I thought that only Olivia would be able to do that, or she was the best person to do that. So I hang on to her.
Yeah, she was great. And it was over a number of years you guys were developing this, right, or bringing it to fruition. I believe you do a lot of theater directing too, and one of the things that is expected in the theater but is sort of uncommon in film is extensive rehearsal time. You really demand it, you fight for it, and ahead of the 3 weeks of rehearsal that you guys had on this one, I understand you sent your actresses some projects, sort of homework to do, to watch some old comedies, I heard, and then also to watch some dance videos, some more sort of music videos. What was the rationale for all that?
Well, none. That was actually just like a day before we started filming.
Yeah.
And because the period of rehearsals was pretty abstract, might I say, because we didn't talk at all about the characters or the film or the tone or anything. We're just there for 3 weeks playing games and doing exercises, and none of it made sense. It did make sense for me and what I was trying to achieve, but we never really articulated anything.
Just as an example, if I can prod you for one, they're supposed to speak their lines while panting as if giving birth.
Yeah. Yeah, that was from Emma's audition, as she likes to call it. Yeah, so things like that. That didn't necessarily relate with the actual script, what was there. So last minute, like a day before filming, I said, maybe I should send them something to show them that we're not making this, abstract, weird thing that people are gonna hopping around, doing their lines. So I just send them, a few references, a few clips from, old comedies or things like that, just to ground them in the tone of films.
Yeah. This is a very cool-looking, stylish film from the costumes to the production design to the cinematography, all of which are among those 10 Oscar nominations. The thing that always comes right to mind, for instance, are the fisheye lenses that you use in certain scenes, which at first perplexed me, and then I don't know if this is the right interpretation, but then you think about it, they're sort of all stuck together in essentially a fishbowl, and it's a very opulent fishbowl. But I guess I wondered, though, what for you were the visual references that were most important? A lot of people project their own things. People are talking about Barry Lyndon seems to have been an influence, or I heard a Swedish film somebody brought up, and they claimed that you had said that it contributed. But what for you were the things you were thinking about when you were crafting the film?
Well, I mean, we always try to be, original as much as it is possible. So one thing is that we decided, let's stay away from Barry Lyndon. Let's not look at it. We love it. It's a masterpiece. Everybody's going to be mentioning it when when they see the film, because, it's a film which takes place in a period near Barry Lyndon. There's candlelit scenes, there's wigs, and people are going to think of Barry Lyndon because it's the greatest film made. So let's put that aside. Let's not use zoom lenses. Let's not use any of the music in there and things like that. So we just looked at films, some period films that had done, great things with the genre, like Peter Greenaway's Draftsman's Contract, Ingmar Bergman's Cries and Whispers, Amadeus, The Madness of King George. So, films that tonally or visually were quite interesting. But then, we looked at films just to free ourselves, photographically speaking, like we saw some Andrei Zulawski's films for, the camera movement and how he filmed scenes, and The Cremator was an interesting film by Juras Hertz that had the use of extreme wide-angle lenses and juxtaposed with extreme close-ups, and many other things. But it was mainly to be inspired by great filmmakers that made bold choices, and just to free ourselves and find our way into making this film.
Yeah. Last thing, I guess, is just, without giving away the ending in case there are people here who haven't yet seen it, is there some general takeaway that you hope audiences who see this film leave with? Is it a driving reason for telling this story for you?
Well, I try to not do that. I try to leave a lot of space for the audience to engage with the films that I make. I hope that I do that. I just try to find stories and the situations that are complex enough, and you can understand that by telling a story, even if it's an intimate story about these three people, you can actually associate the story with other things, bigger themes. And I think from the beginning, and that's why I decided to make this film, the story of these three women felt very intimate, but at the same time, it was very telling of how you know, the personality and of very few people can affect the lives of so many others. Can affect the fate of a war, the fate of a country. So these kind of things made me make the film, and I hope in that people may associate that with other things as well.
That's terrific. Well, Yorgos, thank you again for coming. We'll see you shortly. Stay here for a moment while we bring out our next guest. Give a big round of applause for Yorgos Lanthimos. Our next guest is a filmmaker from the People's Republic of Brooklyn who has been a Knicks fan since way back when they were actually good. He has been trying to wake people up long before everyone claimed to be woke. And he became the face of indie film with 1986's She's Gotta Have It, and has spent the 33 years since making masterpieces like 1989's Do the Right Thing, for which he received a Best Original Screenplay Oscar nomination, 1991's Jungle Fever, 1992's Malcolm X, 2006's Inside Man, and in 2018, Black Klansman, for which he received not only a Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar nomination, but also, if you can believe it, his first ever Oscar nominations for Best Picture and Best Director. Let's take a look at Black Klansman, directed by Spike Lee.